Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Super Tease video. And in this one, we're going to be doing a rundown of which specializations are the best suited for getting you to Gladiator and some of these limited time end of season rewards for patch 10.2.6. We're going to be covering this from multiple angles, which specializations are the best for pugging and using LFG, which ones are the best if you got like a pre-made group that you're going to be sticking with, and which ones have the best types of compositions and what are some of your options as well. So it's going to be all inclusive here to figure out what is the best way for you to get to your goals. Now, Affliction Warlock overall in LFG is going to be a bit more of a struggle. I see a couple of compositions popping up in particular with this one, which may come actually as a bit of a surprise, but the Affliction Warlock Assassination Rogue, Resto Shaman, or Resto Druid is actually a very common comp for this. I would recommend playing also with a Shadow Priest. I think that Shadow Priest Warlock is a really good ladder comp right now for getting ladder. If you're going to be playing pugging with LFG, I'd say the Shadow Priest Warlock is going to be your best option. But if you're going to be pugging a lot or playing with a pre-made group, that the Rogue Warlock can be a decent one. I'd say Affliction is about middle of the pack. I think it's still going to be a decent struggle regardless if you're pugging or not pugging, but it's definitely achievable. Arcane Mage, this is still kind of the staple outlaw rogue. Arcane Mage, Resto Druid, you can maybe bring in a Holy Paladin, see a couple of maybe Holy Priests coming in on this as well, but man, it can become a bit of a problem. Main issue is like puggable comps. I don't think it has the most puggable comps, so if you're using LFG a lot, it might be tough to climb with this one. I think that you've really got to dedicate to a team and focus down on your strategies if you're going to be able to pull this one off, but I do think it is more capable than Affliction overall, especially if you get good at it, but it's not beginner friendly. So again, if you're beginner friendly, you're looking for something beginner friendly and LFG friendly, not going to be really good for you. But if you're looking for something to dedicate yourself and find a team, it's definitely going to be. And again, I think the Outlaw Rogue Arcane is probably going to be one of your best bets, if not your best bet for climbing. Arms Warrior is a great pick right now. Before I even describe anything, whether you're LFGing or whether you're pre-mating it up, the best comp right now is Ret Paladin, Arms Warrior, and Fistweaver Monk. I think single-handedly probably the best ladder comp overall, but you can also play a whole bunch of other options if you're pugging day to day. It is high synergy with a whole bunch of other classes as well. It is a great pick if you're going to be going into the 3v3 bracket right now. Assassination Rogue, on the other hand, it's getting better. I do see it popping up a little bit more and more. Again, most notably, I've been seeing, at least from streams, like Affliction and Assassination Rogue, quite common for it, as well as Shadow Priest Assassination Rogue. But it's really limited in terms of its defense. It's really squishy. It's going to be a bit of a struggle. Not really LFG friendly. I wouldn't say any rogue comp is really LFG friendly. You need to build synergy with your team. So for me, it's kind of like middle of the pack. I think you can make it work, but it's going to be a bit more of a struggle. Balanced Druid is a great pick at the moment. Demon Hunter Balanced Druid overall is a really strong ladder comp. You can focus on pressure as long as you get your Cyclones down. Make sure you watch some of my Moonkin guides if you're looking to improve your play there. I think that Moonkin is fantastic. Not really the best pugging class. It can be a little bit difficult to find compositions outside of that, so you're not going to have a ton of options in terms of LFG. I do think the Demon Hunter Boomkin, maybe Warlock Moonkin, can be a good option. So for me, overall ladder, I think it's going to come in about an A, better than Arcane. I kind of want to put it up on the S, but you guys are going to be like, he's biased putting it on the S because he's so good at it. But I actually do, it's leaning more towards S. BM Hunter, I actually don't see a lot of anymore. I think BM Hunter Ret Paladin is likely a really good composition at the moment. Resto Shaman, Resto Druid, whatever you want to pick up, is probably going to be your best ladder comp. It's not super flexible, I think, with a ton of melee DPS like it used to be, unfortunately, in the past. I think that's pretty much only your main option. I think it's although probably about an A tier. It's going to be weaker on the pugging side, LFG side, in terms of compositions. You're going to be wanting to seek out a Ret Paladin for sure, and then obviously Resto Shaman, but you'll probably be good from that point. It's got decent damage output. Blood Death Knight, probably just not going to be ranking the tanks, but Blood Decay probably could actually get some stuff done. I've seen it gripping off of casters and extending games for a really long time. Brewmaster, same deal here. Demonology Warlock, this has a lot of comps. This one can be really good if you're pugging. I would recommend with a Shadow Priest. I think Demonology Shadow Priest is one of the most face roll like caster comps you can run on the ladder at the moment. It's just really tanky, a lot of pressure, and it takes a lot of pressure off the Shadow Priest as well. So Demonology, I kind of want to put up here on S tier just for that composition, really. But you can play other things. You can pug and you synergize highly with a lot of other classes in the game. So you're gonna have a ton of options, whether you're pugging every day on the ladder for 3v3 and trying to do well, or you're dedicating yourself to that comp that I've recommended. Destruction Warlock, still really good specialization even despite the nerfs. You got a lot of options as far as like ladder comps, play with rogues, demon hunters. You can probably play with moonkins and mages. You've really got a whole bunch of choices. So if you're going into LFG, pugging a lot, it's going to be great. And if you're dedicating yourself, it's even better if you're dedicating yourself to one of those comps specifically. So for me, I think Destruction Warlock is going to be coming up here under the S tier. Devastation Evoker has a couple of compositions that are really cheesy, particularly with Death Knights. If you run Death Knight, Evoker, Mistweaver, sometimes Disc Priest, it's a big one-shot comp, but that means that you got to build that synergy up. So you got to find, you're going to be retraining your team every time if you're finding this over and over. It doesn't have a huge amount of options, although it's got a little bit of flexibility. I think it's a tougher LFG spec. I think it's definitely doable. I think recommending 100% the Death Knight and the Devastation Evoker composition, grip into Deep Breath and just set up that wombo combo one shot, and you're going to be climbing pretty rapidly with that. Disc Priest, it's better since the buffs, but I think it's still not fantastic. Your healing output just lack, and your mana regen is really low. Some people are making it work though, so I'm putting it kind of in the middle of the pack, but I really want to put it here. I think that Disc Priest is just not that great in 3v3. If you're pugging, you're basically like thinking the entire time, it would be better if I was something else, no matter what you're playing, really. It's tough. I'm just gonna leave it on C tier for now. Elemental Shaman, I think is really good with a Demon Hunter at the moment. This is, and again, one of the best kind of like face roll, do a bunch of damage compositions. So if you're playing no voice or pugging, you can pug that Demon Hunter, Elemental Shaman, Resto Druid comp. You're going to be rolling people over. Actually, I almost think single-handedly just because of that comp. You can also run with Warlocks and do pretty well. I could even see Moonkin Ellie popping up every once in a while. I really want to put Ellie on S, but we'll leave it on the best A tier spec at the moment. Damage output on it's really easy to do. It's a really fun spec, and though I just made a video on it actually if you want to check that out to get a little bit of advice on playing it, but it's got a lot of different options you can play, the Demon Hunter Ellie being the best one. Enhancement Shaman, I was actually just spam playing this today, and I think in ranked 3s, dampening's not as fast, so your healing output actually does feel noticeably buffed. Mostly Warrior Enhance is the comp that I see. You can play with Windwalkers and Rogues, so it's got a little bit of flexibility, but it's not great. I'd say it probably feels about middle of the pack. It's going to feel better than Assassination, I think, or close to it. So I'll put it here on the left. It's on the left. I think it's the best out of the ranged as opposed to melee. Feral Druid, there's a lot of clone spamming comps. So like Feral Druid Mage, I see this popping up a lot. And also Jungle is a little better now as well since the Hunter buffs. So it's definitely performing better. Where do we want to put this? I actually think it's A tier in 3v3. The dampening is a little bit less intense, so his healing is more relevant. If you play one of these clone-based compositions where you can spam cast, you are really strong. So right now on the ladder, I'm going to leave it on A tier right now to the melee DPS. Definitely is better than Enhancement or Assassination. Fire Mage, this is a tough one for 3v3. You're doing a lot more damage. I do really think that you're powerful. You can see the range DPS actually have a lot of options. As far as comps go, probably still going to want to be sticking to the Fire Mage and the Rogue. This one you can play with like a couple other specs of Rogue like Subtlety as opposed to Outlaw only, I think. Wouldn't be bad. Like Fire Mage, Subtlety, Holy Paladin I think is a sleeper composition, honestly. You might struggle with the Fistweaver monks with that, but where do we want to put you? I think because Mistweavers are coming up actually in power, that Fire is a lot better than it was before. Just Mage in general. This is actually such a tough breakdown here. I'm going to put it here. No, I think it's better than Devastation. We'll put it just under Boomkin or something, somewhere in and around Boomkin. Frost Mage, same deal, except this one, I think it's a little bit more LFG friendly. You're generally like the Wizard caster spec. You play with other casters, whether they're, mostly Warlocks, Demonology, and Destro, I think, are kind of your main go-tos at the moment. Frost is honestly going to feel about the same, I think, as well, especially with the melee cleave meta. I could see it actually being really good. I might kind of tells up into S, but I'm gonna put it onto A tier for now. I think the double casters, the Demo Frosts can be really good. Frost Death Knight, you're similar to Devastation. You've basically only got that comp. Devastation can pug maybe a couple of other things and you get decently high on the ladder, whereas Frost, like I almost only ever see you playing with Devastation Evoker and maybe Windwalker if you're lucky. I think because of that, Frost DK is definitely going to be coming in lower. Here we're putting it onto the C tier. Fury Warrior, my god, man. I just feel like you got no shot, dude. Arms Warrior is just outperforming you in every regard. What do we think for Fury? It's probably the same. You'd probably want to play Ret Warrior, but every Ret's just going to be like, why aren't you Arms? And that's pretty much going to be the name of the game there for you. You got decent comp flexibility in terms of your utility and the fact that you bring MS, but its damage output is just not there relative to what Arms is capable of at the moment. Guardian Druid, dropping this one down here. Havoc Demon Hunter, really good pick at the moment. You can play with Ellie Shamans, you can play with Boomkins, you can play Melee Cleaves. You got a lot of options. You're really versatile. You're going to be rewarded for getting good at this spec. Absolutely killer spec in 3v3 right now if you want to go for Gladiator. Holy Priest, see, some people are making it work, right? But I don't think it's that fantastic. It's probably better than Disc. We'll put it up onto B tier for now. The healing output of it, the raw output of it can be pretty good with the initial cooldowns that you have, especially with being able to go into the Guardian Spirit Angel and spam free cast. Gives you a lot of like early game survivability, but I see you getting run down by these cleaves and having some mana problems a lot of the time on the ladder, so be a bit more of a rough run. Holy Paladin, you really struggle with getting trained at the moment. You're pretty much going to want to focus on playing with Rogue Mage, I think, and then every Rogue Mage is going to wish you were a Druid, so it's kind of the similar position of it as the Disc Priest, where in the comps that you have, pretty much everybody's wishing you were something else, so I'm going to put you on B tier a little bit ahead of Holy Priest. Marksmanship Hunter, I think is really good at the moment. With Ret Paladin specifically. Ret Paladin's kind of pivoting everything around itself at the moment, and Marksman can play a couple caster comps. You can play like Destro, Marksman, double caster comps can work with it, but I would definitely recommend the Ret Paladin. We'll probably put it here above Affliction. I think BM is really that much better than it. I feel like I need to drop BM Hunter down if I'm going to put Marksman there. We'll drop BM Hunter down here, BM and Marks. I think that these casters are likely feeling a lot stronger at the moment with their synergy with Rogues and Demon Hunters and each other over that. Mistweaver, really good at the moment if you're going for Gladiator. If you can play Fistweaver and Caster Mistweaver and switch depending on your opponents, so if you're fighting Hunters and Mages, go Caster. If you're not fighting those and you're fighting Shadow Priests and Warlocks, go Fistweaver. You will just roll over everybody at the moment. Highly recommend the Warrior Ret Paladin composition, or even sometimes Demon Hunter Ret Paladin. You can kind of flex those classes, those melee on the S tier out with each other. Outlaw Rogue is still really good if you're not pugging. If you're pugging a lot and you're having to retrain everybody on how to do your setups and stuff like that, it's going to be difficult. You got a little bit of flexibility. I'm going to say you're probably like A tier along with Feral still, even despite the nerfs. I think Rogue Mage is going to be the main go-to with this one. But you can play other things. I think you play Rogue Moonkin still. You got some pug comps, but again, I wouldn't recommend pugging if you're playing rogue comps. Preservation Evoker, it's better in threes than in solo shuffle because you can actually coordinate around its limited range and keep your team together and keep them aggressive and synergized. But I don't see it. I think it's better than Holy Paladin. So I'm going to put it onto A tier. A tier for now. Prot Warrior, we're dropping this one down here. Prot Paladin, we're dropping this one down here. Resto Shaman, absolute beast mode in 3v3 at the moment. Along with Mistweaver Monk, we're putting it up here onto the S tier. You got a lot of composition options. You can play pretty much anything at the moment, so it's really good. You're really desirable right now at the moment on this. You can get offensive plays, super fun healer. Again, probably recommend the Ret Warrior as a go-to, but I've seen even Demon Hunter Boomkin, obviously, as one of the standard ones, or Rogue Moonkin. You can bring in a lot. Like, you are really versatile, along with the Mistweaver Monk in the current meta. Resto Druid, I also think is spectacularly good. Do I think it's better than Fistweaver and Resto Shaman? I think it's probably close. I'm putting it onto A tier. You have a lot of options. You're going to be more desired than the healers that are beneath you at the moment, for sure. In a lot of your comps, I think one of the best comps on the ladder, at least, is going to be that Ellie Demon Hunter. It's just got a lot of damage output between those two specs, so definitely would recommend that. Ret Paladin, easy S tier. I actually think Ret Paladin might be like one of the best specs in the game now. After all the Demon Hunter nerfs, you can play with pretty much any of the specs in the game with how much output it has, but I would highly recommend the Ret Warrior and Mistweaver. Now moving on to the Shadow Priest. This is a specialization that has a lot of options as well. You can play with some melee DPS like Rogues. You can play with casters. I'd recommend the Demonology Warlock Shadow Priest. think that is the best ladder comp. Where do we want to put this bad boy? I think probably honestly the best of the A tier. It's got decent puggability, but again, not a beginner friendly spec. So you're going to have to invest some time in this. Whereas like Ret Paladin, I think you've got to invest like the least amount of time and you're going to have big time success. Kind of same with Demon Hunter, but you can get pretty high levels once you've got that investment. Subtlety Rogue, I don't see a lot. Again, the Fire Mage Subtlety Rogue, I think could be kind of a sleeper comp, but the Fistweaver Cleaves with Rets are going to make it really hard. Subtlety Rogue, as far as like going for Gladiator, I can't really recommend it at the moment. I think Outlaw is going to outperform, and even Assassination in the comps that it has with dot classes, I think is probably going to outperform, and I think Subtlety is likely going to be more of a struggle. Survival Hunter, Jungle is actually really good. Survival, since the buffs, is looking pretty scary. I'd say it's probably the best of the B, maybe coming into the A tier. Getting pretty close to it at least. Unholy Death Knight, again, if you're running with the Devastation Evoker, I think it can be a really good pick. I've seen a couple of like Demon Hunter Death Knights can be a decent ladder comp if you're just like pugging no voice. And you're a bit more worried about coordination that the Devastation Evoker compositions would require. You can kind of get around that with this one. Running with the Demon Hunter and a Resto Shaman instead. It's probably going to feel pretty B tier though. We'll put it down here with enhancement. For now, Vengeance, we're leaving that one down in the tank tier. Windwalker, this is a gnarly one, man. It does a lot of damage. Super sleeper spec at the moment if you're going for Gladiator. You've got a lot of flexibility. It's a decent pugging spec. I've been really enjoying playing mine at the moment. I'm trying to go for 2400 solo shuffle on. I think I got to 22 or 2100 at the moment throughout this first week of playing. It's really good. It's really fun. Does a lot of damage. Do I want to put it on S? I don't think it competes with the S. It's probably like the best of the A. So we'll put it up here onto the A. And then Augmentation Evoker. We don't see a lot of it, but I actually think it can be good. I had a little bit of a run with Jelly Beans of Enruki running Demon Hunter Aug, Resto Shaman, and it actually wasn't that bad. I think Aug is kind of slept on. So Aug, as far as like a ladder pusher, I think we're going to put it out in this range with the Hunters. Maybe the Hunters are a little better. This is such a tough one because I got so many on A, right? Maybe we should drop Fire down to B. I could see that, but not at the same time. You can see that the season is pretty wide open as far as comps are concerned. I think there's a little bit of a lead here with the Ret and the Warrior, but there's a lot of different options that you've got. So we've covered all the specs as far as like which ones are the best for pugging, which ones are the best if you got like a team that you're dedicated to, which ones are more beginner friendly, which ones are more advanced level player friendly. And I hope that this video has helped you in identifying some compositions for your spec, or which spec is going to be the one that's best for you to go after these limited time rewards. Is my goal to help you get to those achievements as with high likelihood as possible. So thank you very much for watching and all of the support. Hit the sub button if you'd like to help me out, and I will see you in the next one.